Hello, and welcome to another Steel Division Divisional overview. And today we're taking a look at the first Polish Rifle Division, one of the new divisions that have been added in the recent DLC. And well, they're like a Soviet infantry division in a sense, but with Polish people instead, and very hard to pronounce names, so I apologize in advance for any and all mispronunciations that kind of should be expected by now. Nonetheless, even though they don't have a lot of new, fancy, awesome, cool units that have been added in, it's all pretty standard Soviet equipment, it doesn't mean these guys are not to be trifled with, as they're still pretty good, and they're very good at one sort of thing, and we're going to see that in a, well, good time. So, let's jump right into it. So they are a BA tier division, and they are technically mechanized, so I kind of like a bit more infantry in mechanized. You don't have a lot of mechanized assets, to be entirely honest. Got a lot of infantry slots, a lot of airplane slots, and a lot of anti-tank slots. Pretty standard stuff. Actually, maybe not so much for the anti-tank. A lot of Soviet anti-tank slots are usually pretty poor, but you got quite a lot of AT options with this division. Not great AT options, but options nonetheless. And everything else is pretty standard. So let's just jump right into the Recon tab. For Reconnaissance, all pretty standard stuff. You got your bike, you got your two-man teams in terms of transport. You do got some BA-64s and BA-20s, which is rather nice, and also some M3A150 cows. I'm not going to say half-track, but it's really just an armoured car. As well as some universal carriers, so you got some pretty good, honestly, pretty good transport options here. You also have a universal carrier with a Dushcom, which is always cool. You can never really go wrong with a armoured 50 cal, even though it's barely armoured and that's only 50 cal 500 shots. You have a BA-10, you also have the Su-57, as well as a T-34-76, so pretty good armoured reconnaissance assets in total, especially the Su-57. This is always a very nice unit to have due to its rapid fire on that, well, 6-pounder, or M1 57mm anti-tank gun. You also have 8-man team, which is a pretty good team, as they are equipped with SVTs and Panzerfaust, so they can hold their own in a fight, and you get pretty decent availability for them, especially in C phase. And then you got this other team. Once again, I'm not going to try to pronounce these names, but this is more of a regular rifle squad, as they got Mozins and even an MG42 and some PPSHs. So this is definitely a bit more of a, well, regular infantry, like I said, and they also decentish availability considering this is a full-blown infantry squad, essentially. So, honestly, some pretty decent recon options. I mean, the Su-57 is really, I'd say the highlight here is it's such a bloody good unit. Because it's a reconnaissance unit and a solid anti-tank unit, all rolled up into one. And you also got good infantry as well. Now, jumping over to the actual infantry tab, yeah, there's a lot of, well, Polish names here. But honestly, all these infantry are pretty much just Russian infantry in disguise. They all have Russian counterparts. For the sake of, well, the Polish language, I'm gonna just call them by their Russian names, so forgive me for that. Anyway, we got Sapri PPSHs. We also have Tank Deskoniki. These two units have been changed in the recent patch. These guys are only 10 points now compared to 15. And Tank Deskoniki have replaced their smoke grenades for some hot Molotov cocktails. You got all the regular leaders with all sorts of different types of weaponry and equipment. Pretty standard stuff in total. You got a lot of Strelki, which are just the regular. I think it's pretty close to the Russian name. It's just your regular infantry. 6 cards worth. That's a lot of infantry, and the availability is also nothing to sneeze at. That's a lot of infantry. You also got Strelki SVTs, which are a little bit different compared to a regular Strelki. As well, surprise, they got a lot of SVTs. As well as the Panzerfaust. These guys are pretty damn good, and once again, really good availability. They do lack that long-range machine gun, but by God, having semi-automatic rifles, it's nothing to sneeze at. Also, they're a little bit weaker compared to the regular Strelki squad, 9 men compared to 11, but still, semi-auto rifles and the Panzerfaust can't really go all the way out wrong. You also have these guys, which are essentially just Avtomachiki. You got 4 cards of them. You have 2 cards of Saparis, and Saparis are, one of the best Russian infantry you can get. just due to the fact satchel charges and SVTs. You also have strokey DPs, and by God, you get 3 cards of these guys. That's a lot of strokey DP. You can really spam the hell out of the infantry here, and strokey DP are also really good. 9 SVTs, DP, machine guns, and even an anti-tank rifle. Not bad for 25 points. More leaders as per usual. Really, I'm not going to cover leaders, it's all pretty standard stuff here. A lot of them are actually 8-phase limited. But this, I think this is equivalent to the Avto rifle leader, because you get pretty good availability with these chaps. You also have a penal squad here. It's essentially, trying to pronounce it here, Safniki, if I remember it. Pretty much the same thing, but this penal squad is actually disheartened, as they probably don't want to fight. Probably rather disheartened. Anyway, you got 2 cards of these, and you still get pretty good availability with them. So, not too bad, considering, you know, it's a 20-man team. You know, not a lot of it worse when it comes to the whole being shot at and being a, you know, bullet sponge, as the disheartened makes them suppressed more easily. You also have a Sappery squad equipped with a flamethrower. Pretty cool, or hot stuff, I should say. So you got a lot of infantry options, you got a lot of infantry slots to fill up in. A lot of them are only 1 point, so you really want to fill most of this up most of the time. And you just have ridiculous spam. I mean, like I said, 6 cards of Shroud Key, 3 cards of Strokey DP, 2 Sappery cards, all these penal units. It's pretty damn nice, I got to say. And these are all, you know, pretty good units. Strokey DPs are better than your guard DPs, honestly, just due to the semi-automatic rifle capabilities. So tanks is pretty pathetic. The Poles don't have any T-34-85s, unfortunately. They got some T-70s, which is alright. They're a nice, cheap, spammable light tank. And they're not terrible, but they're not great at the same time. You'll also, to note, the Command One does actually have APCR cells, which gives it a little bit of extra kick. And then you got T-34-76s, you got the cheap 45-point 1943 models, and some T-34Es if you just need a little bit of extra armor. Actually, it's quite a bit of extra armor, about 15mm. So, yeah, the tank tab is pretty rubbish overall. You're really just spamming units, just spamming cheap tanks. You're not going to win against really any division that has competent tanks. You're just not going to have a good time. Support's alright, pretty standard stuff. You got NKVDs. I don't know. Does anyone actually use NKVDs or Feldgender armies? I can't say the second one properly, but you know what I mean, the German equivalent. If you do, please let me know, because I can find literally zero use to use them, and especially considering it takes up a rather important support slot. You got essentially your Ogamachi, you got Maxim machine gun teams, you got some infantry support guns. This is just a run of only high explosive shells, no AP ammunition. A lot of supply trucks, 4 cards worth, which is pretty good. And then you got your regular commanders, from infantry, motorbike, to armoured car. Nothing too crazy in support tab, but you want to be taking the support guns. Anti-tank. You got a lot of anti-tank slots, which is pretty good considering this is like a Soviet, Polish, like infantry, mechanized division. Because usually a lot of Russian infantry divisions are pretty poor anti-tank. Your equipment isn't great in terms of firepower, but you got 3 cards of 45mm. And even though I wasn't saying they're great, they are pretty good. Because small caliber AT guns, I'd actually say kind of better, and bigger caliber AT guns, just due to the fact they cause so many critical hits with their rapid rate of fire. And considering you got a lot of anti-tank slots, you can really spam a lot of these 45mm and have a pretty good time. And with the availability on him, definitely encouraging you to do that. You got 1 card of Su-76s. You can only get them in A phase, unfortunately. But, you know, this is pretty good. This is a pretty decent unit, as it's a mobile, cheap anti-tank platform. I mean, it's the same price as your 45mm, and it has much more firepower. Also acts as an artillery spotter, which is pretty damn useful as well. You only got 1 card as this freeze, pretty much the same as the Su-76, but not tracked. You can use it as an artillery gun if you want, which honestly isn't all out bad. But once again, like with a lot of Soviet infantry, mechanized divisions, whatnot, you can only get them up to B phase, so no C phase spam, unfortunately. So a little bit limited in number. And then the best, most powerful AT yet you got is only one card of Su-85s. This is definitely a very important card to take, as this is your heaviest ground-based AT, really. I think the artillery gun shoots, yeah, it shoots each though, so technically not. But in terms of practicality sense, this is it. So if there's a Tiger on the field, you're gonna want to use these Su-85s. Well, not dumbly. What I'm saying is don't throw them away. I don't even think dumbly is a word. Let's just move on from that. Anti-air is pretty standard. Maxim trucks, 37 mils, some M17s, and some 85 mils. In Soviet anti-air is never really anything too crazy. You do got a nice amount of 37mm AA guns, which are really the backbone of most AA defenses, I'd say. Also the M17 as well. This is also a pretty good unit. Artillery is not bad. You got a lot of options, but not a lot of slots, unfortunately. It gets rather expensive rather quickly. So you got your artillery observers, and then your artillery leaders. You got 76 mils, 82 mils, 120 mils, and then mainly you got one card of Su-76s, one card of Katyushas, which is pretty good. The Katyushas are no longer as great as they were during the release of the game, but they're not terrible. But the real kicker is just how long it takes for them to aim on a target. Pretty much you're not really going to use a Katyusha on a more mobile force, as the aim time takes too long before that force moves. And then you got 122mm. These are the real powerhouse of your artillery tab. Also, you know, technically the most powerful AT you can get, 160mm of penetration, which is pretty cool, you got to admit. Yeah, these are really the powerhouse. They don't have radios, unfortunately. Really, the only units going to be benefiting from the radios are these Su-76s. So Su-76s backed up by more Su-76s is really the best way you're going to get accurate artillery fire. But yeah, it's not terrible artillery, to be entirely honest, but I definitely find that you just want to focus taking actual artillery guns there rather than the leaders and infantry to shoot your limited slot availability. Airplanes is not bad either, it's actually pretty decent. You got some cheap PO2 recon planes, some cheap IR-2 bombers which aren't that bad for 90 points. You gotta realise that's only dropping like 200 kilograms rather for explosives, but the IR-2 can do a good job strafing targets, and by god it's very hard to shoot down. It's a really tough plane. You got some Yak 1s and some Yak 3s which are really gonna be your main fighters for this division. Both of them are pretty decent. You know, the Yak 3 is rather special as it's pretty much an ace. You only get one of them in A phase. It's still a pretty good plane just due to the extra veterancy bonuses, but in terms of the spam that you can get for the Yak 1Bs, I'd really recommend the Yak 1Bs over the Yak 9. You also got Yak 1B bombers. These are also pretty good. You gotta realize now when bomber planes such as this drop their bombs, they get the exact same stats as they would with the regular fighter version. So this is also another card of fighters, really, and that's pretty good. You got a heavier IL-2 bomber if you need some bigger kabooms. You got Yak 7B with the strafing rocket. Nothing too crazy here. Usually good for just stunning up an AT gun, or maybe like a blob of infantry. Shooting your infantry. That's usually not ideal. And finally, really, the main thing here, the big important unit, are these IL-2 cluster bombers. I'd honestly recommend that you take both cards of these through pretty much every single 1st Polish Division deck that you make. The reason being is that if you notice throughout the rest of our, well, slots, we have really poor anti-tank. I mean, there's T-34 spam here, some 76 mils and 1 Su-85s here, and I mean, for counting the 122 mil, we have really poor ground-based AT. Heavy tanks are an absolute pain to deal with. So, this is our most reliable way to kill them, with good old, cluster bomb air ordnance, Tiger, Panther, Panzer IV, Panzer II, doesn't matter. Cluster bombs will make him go kaboom. They're pretty good in that manner. And you get a lot of them. 2 in B and 4 in C phase in terms of availability. So really, I'd say it's a very important unit for this division. And in terms of defense, it's pretty standard stuff. Barbed wire, gun pits, trenches, bunkers, all of that. Yeah. So that's a quick overview of the divisional. Well, I'm trying to think of the word here. How they're compromised. So let's take a look at a deck that I built earlier. So this is the deck that I built earlier. Once again, the deck code will be in the description below. So let's jump right into it. So I have opted for a Vanguard income with this division. The reason being is that a lot of your real powerhouse units really come in A and B phase for the most part. And even though it's a Vanguard deployment division, it's still a division that actually works pretty well in C phase, as a lot of the stuff that we can buy in C phase anyway is usually pretty cheap. We don't have a lot of very expensive tanks or infantry yet we need to buy. Really the most expensive things are these IL-2s and the 85mm in C phase. And yes, we can't get 1 per minute with this income, which is a bit of a shame, but I usually find 110 to be enough. And it's much better to have that early advantage to, well, push harder earlier. So jumping into the Recon tab, I'm taking all of the Recon armoured vehicles, essentially. Unless you also count the Universal Carrier as armoured. It technically is. But anyway, I like doing this strategy, I find personally, where I don't take Recon Infantry in a phase, as I like being very aggressive with my Recon units early on. And this is really the time to make him shine, as usually the enemy front line is less populated, so you can sneak these guys around, and especially if you can get an Su-57 behind enemy lines, overlooking a main supply road, you can just kill so many units. It can be a real powerhouse. And then B phase, you'll take some Recon Infantry with an armoured car, because you need some infantry at least. In terms of infantry, A phase, I'm going pretty heavy with more of the heavier fire support units. I got the Sapperies, I got Sappery Flamethrowers, and 1 card of Strokey DP, and 1 2-star leader. It doesn't seem like a lot of infantry, and honestly, it's not. It can get a little bit tough if you're just throwing array your guys. But all of these infantry units are pretty damn good and can hold their own in a fight. I mean, Strokey DPs are definitely much better than a regular Strokey counterpart when it comes to, actually shooting things. So, it works. I do find this works, especially when you're fighting over those important town points early on. Flamethrower Sapperies and regular Sapperies do prove to be rather useful. And after that, we're really just spamming. We're just spamming Strokey SVTs, some Sapperies, more Strokey DPs and B and C phase, and then just some of the regular leader units. It's really just spam after A phase. Tanks. Pretty much spam once again. We take some A phase T-70s, both the regular and the leader unit, and then also some A phase T-34s, and then B phase some more T-34s. Not a great selection of tanks, but you gotta make do with what you got. Support, pretty standard. Well, actually, one thing that's not standard. One thing I usually parrot on a lot is that you always should have an A phase supply truck. And I do agree with that. As if something breaks down on A phase and you have no A phase supply truck, or, a supply truck in the... Or actually, we do technically have a supply truck here. But the reason I'm not taking a proper A phase supply truck and only taking 1 card of B phase supply trucks is, first, we just don't have the slots to do so. And secondly, with this division, just look at the A phase units here. To be entirely honest with you, they're all pretty disposable. The only real issue here is with the Su-76. But that usually has a pretty good amount of ammunition to survive through A phase alone before needing to get a supply truck. So if a T-70 breaks down, its tracks get shot out, who cares? It's 30 points. It's not that big of a deal. So we're just gonna take the risk and not get an A phase supply truck, and instead opt for the B phase one as you get more availability per card. And once I said before, we also have the A phase supply truck here, so if you really need an A phase supply truck, you can buy a 110 pointer unit combo of the artillery gun and the supply unit. But yeah, and also A phase commander in an M3A1. Oh, in terms of infantry transports, I forgot to mention, Pretty much everything is mostly in Studebakers. I believe, the Saparis here are in M2s. You do not get a lot of armored transports. You get like 20 of these both, roughly. Oh, I think you only get like 4 of these. I think like Trove M3A1s, if I recall. You're really just going to be using Studebakers most of the time, regardless. The Studebakers are, good. They're better than Cis-5s. Anti-tank. Pretty much just taking a lot of 45 mils and one of everything else. Not taking Peter Asses as... I like Peter Asses, especially now they're like 10 points, which is pretty cool. But we already have a lot of Scroky DPs, so we're doing pretty good in terms of the anti-tank rifle department. Anti-air's pretty standard, just some 37 mils and then C-phase some 85 mils. Also forgot to mention, this thing can also act as an anti-tank gun. I usually don't like using these as anti-tank guns, but considering this division, that's not a bad idea if push comes to shove and 10 Tigers are coming down the road. Artillery, we already seen this, just some SU-76s and A-phase and also some 120 mils, 22 mils I should say, and then B-phase more, 122 mils. Really just taking proper artillery units, as we don't have a lot of artillery slots to really race on, leaders and whatnot. In the airplanes, we're just taking 2 most important things. We're taking fighters, and we're taking cluster bombers, for obvious reasons. Yeah, you really need his cluster bombers to keep you competitive in the anti-tank department. So, overall, I can pretty much sum up the pros and cons of this division with one sentence on each side. The pros of this division, the real gimmick of this division, is that this is a spam division. You just spam hordes of T-70, T-34s, all the infantry, all the AT guns, you just spam. This division relies on overwhelming numbers to defeat the enemy. Pretty simple stuff. You just spam. And you got good spam. The infantry spam's pretty decent with all the Scroky DPs and other Saparis and Scroky SVTs you get. And the cons of this division also should be pretty obvious. It's the lack of AT, really ground-based long-range AT for being specific here. No T-3045s, no Cis-2s, like one card of SU-85s. You have really poor ground-based AT. In open field maps and fights, especially like bigger team games, you're not gonna have a good time. As if the enemy Panther spams you in an open map, and if they, set up a decent anti-air net, you're not gonna cut it. You are just pretty much going to lose unless you can get some like really good Panzerfaust hits, some sneaky shots with the 45 mils. Open field fights are real hell with this division. You really want to try and focus on fighting close quarters areas for the most part, as that's where your infantry spam and T-34s and AT guns, small caliber AT guns, really come into play. So you kind of play it like Hungarian cavalry in a sense, where you're just fighting over close quarters areas and leave the open areas if you're playing the team games for your friends, hopefully. If you're playing a 1v1 and you have to fight over an open area, just put some 45 mils, the Cis-3 gun there, and hope to God that the enemy doesn't push you too hard in that location. So that pretty much sums up, how to build, one certain aspect of this division. So let me get my words together and let's look at how this division actually performs in a match. And here we are on a 1v1 on Citadels, I believe is how you say it. But nonetheless, we have ourselves Angry Bird representing as the first pose with a general income, and he's going up against good old Amputee playing a Panzer Lair with also a balanced income. Now, if we take a look at Angry Bird's deck, if you thought my deck was a bit spammy, Angry Bird is super spammy. It's super duper spam. We have 3 A-phase cards of 45 mils. I think it's a little bit too much. Maybe throw the B-phase card in to get even more 45 mils, but apart from that, in terms of like tanks, it's got some more C-phase T-34s and opted not to use T-70s. Support tabs pretty similar. Airplanes, a little bit similar, opting to get some IL-2s. Artillery is a little recut, actually opting to take artillery leader. But if we look at the infantry tab here, if we just look in C-phase, he gets 2 cards of Strokey DPs. That means in the C phase, he has 54 strokey DP squads. Each of those with 2 machine guns, a shit ton of SVTs, and an anti-tank rifle. That's pretty good spam, I got to admit. You're just not going to run out of infantry with this loadout. This division is built for the long game. Out of the 2 decks that we've seen, this is the one you want to play, I'd say, more. We are seeing it played on 1v1, but this is more. It's work more better in a team game rather than a 1v1. My deck at Reshaw probably wouldn't work so well in a team game just because it's a Vanguard income. You know, it can still fight one out, but this is just much better with the crazy amount of strokey DPs. But nonetheless, on this map, so Panzer is definitely a bit of a scary division to fight against, as they got a lot of Panzers and they have a lot of technology on them. And like I said, with the Poles, you just do not have the ground-based AT to really deal with that technology, unfortunately. But fortunately for him, for Angry Bird on the right side here, it's pretty close quarters, a lot of forest. That's really ideal. The middle, not so much. I mean, you got some line of sight blockers with the town and whatnot, but with, you know, the ridge line overlooking, it really gives an advantage to Amber T. I mean, Angry Bird also has a ridge line overlooking, but once again, he only got like 45 mils. Some Ish-3s, and that's really it. And some SU-85s if you can get them into position. Left hand side is actually not looking too bad as well. A lot of forests to fight over. I mean, you can sneak your way through here with infantry spam. And it's really what you're looking for when you're playing as the Poles. Where can I move my, you know, huge platoons and hordes of infantry through from cover to cover to get them through? Because really, the best way you're going to be pushing is the good old infantry ray. And with Poles, it's just going to be a lot of infantry spam. Yeah, tanks, really the scary thing against the Polish. Just Tiger tanks are going to be a real nuisance to deal with. Even the 45 mils, the 45 mils have a harder time penetrating the side of those Tiger tanks compared to Panther tanks. With a Panther, you can sometimes get a lucky side shot. But even then, if you can't penetrate it with 45 mils, you can shoot them a lot. It's a rather long replay. We're not going to be watching at one-time speed for the entirety of it. We roll for the initial engagement, but that's just because, well, with Poles, you really just spam. It's a one-trick pony, so there's not really too much. Once you really break it down, there's not a huge variety of tactical depth. It's just about getting the horde of infantry and moving. So as you've seen, Angry Bird is optional to hit on the right-hand side. Getting some 2-man flamethrower teams, rusting the SU-57 up. You know, he rushes up a little bit too gun-ho, and it's already getting pounded here by the Panzer and IG-18 and does go down. Probably would have been better to sneak it through the forest and get it into a sneakier position. Yeah. Also, this replay was recorded before the patch. So, I mean, the pretty much still plays the same. In terms of the recent patch, there's a few things to keep in mind. Is that tank Destiny here do have smoke grenades, right? Compared to now, they have Molotovs and also separate PPSHs, being more cheaper. Also now, open top tank destroyers and closed tank destroyers have better optics than what they previously did, which is pretty good because tank destroyers are always fun to use. So yeah, as we see, Angry Bird is really just going to be moving his horde of infantry at a captious point, and rightfully so. It's a pretty easy point for him to take. And for Panzer, they don't have a lot of infantry, so when it comes to infantry warfare and attrition, Angry Bird really has advantage. As you see here, tanks they do have smoke grenades in this previous patch. I believe the smoke grenades they only have 60 meter range. They have been buffed to 100 meters now, so smoke grenades are actually a little bit more useful. Yeah, we're just seeing the slow infantry push moving over here. They're going to engage these pioneers, and we're just overwhelming numbers. I mean, Angry Bird should take the victory here. I mean, the pioneers might be able to get some good satchel charges this siege due to how clumped up Angry Bird has his infantry. But the SU-57s are going to help out, same with the 50 cal half tracks. And because there's no AT, yeah, those 50 cal half tracks are going to help make short work. And now just Angry Bird getting some more infantry into that location. And as you see, he has spread out a lot of AT guns across the map. Just AT guns and support guns everywhere. If you don't have a lot of penetration, you might as well just try to shoot him a lot. Even having his artillery unit nearby to the front line. And if he does get 122mm out, well, actually 122mm doesn't even have... I'm actually very curious why he has the artillery leader now. I think about it, because 122mm don't have radios, if I recall. I mean, it doesn't show on the unit card, so I'm going to take it they don't. Same time, there are some units that don't have radios in the unit card that actually do, so it's a little bit inconsistent. But it's still a 10-man leader unit, which makes it pretty good for frontline combat. And the Puma, no, I would say Puma, 234 sneaking through here. That's going to make short work of the half-tracks here. It's really going to come down to this 3-star Su-57 and really seal the deal. He's going to wait for the 234 to come through, which makes sense. And then it gets quick first shot, shooter killed, now it's time to chase. And if he can get eyes on in 14 seconds or so, he should get the kill on that 234. The 234 does retreat to a safe position. Yeah, nothing really too crazy going on. Angry Spider-Man's captures flag, so it is a 13-11 trim. And for both these divisions, they are balanced income, so it's going to be more of a long haul for them rather than trying to get out a quick victory. Which honestly I say is safer play for the most part, as it is harder to win those A phase, B phase rushes now, I find. Now I have to dropping some bombs. Is he actually... Oh, he's actually going to try and fight the Volkerov. Actually, he shoots it down. I think it was a little bit of micro mismanagement of Member T, because he should have been able to, beat you in a dogfight IO2, but he just didn't. Yeah, as you see here, Angry Birds is running due to the sheer amount of infantry that he has. Using a T-34s in the Light Forest, this is really where you want to be using them, especially against Lair. You don't want to be really engaging in the open most of the time unless you get a good shot like that. What you see is Jagdpanzer here. It's just going to shut down all tank play. The only thing that can kill it is the Su-85, and that's not your B phase, if I recall. And Angry Bird is opted to take him in 2-star veterancy, so he only has 4 of them in total. That's not, we really cannot lose those Su-85s in Angry Bird's case. Now we are seeing a Panther being brought into the field, and that's going to be coming up to the middle. Fortunately for Angry Bird, Amberty hasn't really opted to push too hard in this middle area here. He is pushing into the town now, but it's just going to be Sappery and Pioneers, and I give it to the Sapperies as they do have the veterancy advantage, and, they're going to get first shot because they're defending if Angry Bird decides not to move him, which would be a good idea just to keep them where they are. Yeah, 45 mils over here, going to be making short work of these lowly Panzer IIIs. And honestly, concerning the right hand side, there's not really too much Angry Bird can really do to push. His best way to push further is to get infantry into his forest over here and try to move from infantry here to, well, the next objective. It can be a bit of a pain because you'd have to either unload your infantry onto your spot or over here, and if you unload them over here, they have pretty good risk of actually getting shot at by a SAT gun line. Yeah, if you really want to push here, I mean, to have to use smoke, but at the same time, doesn't even have smoke in his artillery, as he only using 122 mils. Once again, both are balancing comes. It's really just going to come down to more of a slower attrition warfare, and as we can definitely see, that's the case due to the time limit. We're on B phase now. Angry Bird getting a lot of Skrotki DPs into the middle town. And the Panther Ds over here are getting pounded by his 45mm. 45mm ain't gonna kill it, but it's gonna ward it off at least. Gonna just tell it to sewer ray. I believe is this T-34 engaged in infantry? Or is he engaged in the Panther? He's engaged in infantry down here. He's got a very nice line of sight on that Panther Grenadier. Same with these infantry support guns. But the Panther's gonna pop around a bend And that's going to be a very dead T-34. The T-34-76s are pretty much just... and they're pretty rubbish in the open. And Angry Bird is pushing through the town here. He has the infantry advantage, of course, and might as well take advantage of the infantry advantage. Yeah, with all the fire support coming from the side, Amity is going to be able to hold on to that town with those IG-18s shooting down into ya. I'll see in the first 122 mils coming up. These are going to be very important units for Angry Bird, as they're the best way to really suppress those heavy tanks and infantry gun positions. And this one Panda Grenadier is actually making some very nice headway, but the one little flamethrower squad is all it's going to take to ward a Panda Grenadier off. Surprise, surprise, and Angry Bird is getting reinforcements up with some Sapperies. We are seeing the tanks moving. Once again, 45 mils ain't going to really do too much against him, but at least they can get some critical hits, maybe force him to fall back. Just, you know, because you're scared of getting shot by 45 mils. And that's a valid cause to be scared. I'm not saying that as a, make fun of the armor here. Especially with AT guns, you can't really see them when they're shooting at you most of the time, because they have pretty good concealment. Amity bringing out all the infantry to retake his town here, as well as some Panther 3 fire support. But a Panther 3 here, getting, or Panther, not Panther 3, a Panther 5 technically, getting killed I believe by the 45mm. Close ranges, it can be deadly. And as you can see, we do finally see the push on the right hand side. As you saw, it developed by him pushing through the forest over here. And now he's starting to clear us out. And once again, he's got some penal scrotch. And they are just going to be, well, suppressing the X-Panther along with these T-34s. Can't kill it, but he can cause lots of criticals, as you can tell. Even with just lowly little PTRDs. It's really quite crazy how good small caliber AT weapons can be in ST2. I mean, if you shoot something enough, it's bound to die. The real problem here for Angry Bird is losing his town. And even though it's theoretically a good place for him to hold, as it's, you know, it's a town, it's lots of buildings and cover, infantry advantage, all of that, just due to the long range advantage Amity has around outside the town, with infantry support firing into it, it's not so much of an advantage. It is going to be pushed back slowly but surely. Really, his best way for Angry Bird to really hold that town is to just keep throwing bodies into it, because you're not gonna... Pangelair is gonna run out of bodies before the Poles do, that's for damn sure. Especially with the C-phase card of strokey DPs. God, that's a lot of strokey DPs still. Yeah, just as you can see with Pose, like I said, it's not huge. I don't want to say like it's not very tactical, but it kind of isn't. It's a very spam division. You just keep bringing more cheap stuff in. You place the cheap stuff in close quarters encounters, and you just keep charging that cheap stuff in, or the infantry in this case, until you break through. Yeah, I mean, Angry Birds has got a pretty good AT gun position here if these tanks do decide to come out. Close range, 45 mils are deadly, like I said. And same with T-34, lovely position it's in. It's got some good angles, close quarters, to get some surprise shots and anything that comes around the corner. You see, Angry Bird does have a huge point lead at the moment due to the fact of capping these two flags over here. The Sapperies in a good spot. Really going to be a real pain to root out unless Amity can spot them and drop some artillery before going into that forest. I mean, it's going to bring up some pioneers to do that, but Sapperies are probably going to win the engagement due to the defensive bonus of not having to move and shoot. But you see, it's one Yak Panzer here. He's been around for a long time, and they do actually manage to capture it just by, bringing more stuff here compared to the Russians. I say, okay, never mind. to get the suppression, yeah. Because Zappary's behind enemy lines, to take more suppression damage, so one satchel charge is enough to cause him to put the hands up. Both of them. Right above their head. You see, the heavier tanks have proven to be a real pain. This Ron Jagdpanzer here, he's been shot to hell and back, but he's still fighting, he's still shooting. And he's just engaged in the 45 mils at long range. The Panther here has moved up a lot bit too much in the middle. He's taking a lot of fire, even by his IS-3 guns. And his IS-3s can penetrate with the APCRs, but they're not going to do much damage on penetration because of APCR shells. Now, but he's starting to put some pressure on the left here, but Angry Bird's got a very nice AT gun line. There's this just AT gun infantry support line set up to try and counter us. At the same time, Ampity has a lot of IG-18s. That's quite a lot of IG-18s, actually. You don't see as many IG-18s anymore. And they've been nerfed to like 4 per card in A phase now, compared to the original 6. And you see the Cluster Bomber finally finishing off the Panthers. Or Panther. Hopefully for Angry Bird we start seeing more of these soon, as they're really the best way to deal with the tanks. Well, unfortunately, Ampity does have pretty good anti-aircraft setup. He's got 2 flak villains over here, a Gepard as well. Ampity's just pushing in the open. And it's a slow push, but it's working. It's working pretty well. The T-34 here, gonna back off because Jagdpanzer's moving up. Really you just want this Jagdpanzer blown up by a cluster bomb more than anything. If you can destroy that, you can deal with everything else. Those IG-18s are actually pretty scary. Just using them out of fire support, they can drop down. We see Angry Bird is not pushing the T-34 around the corner. He's keeping it, you know, in a kind of an ambush position. And he's just backing off. He's not going to engage the Jagdpanzer head on because that would be very silly. And finally see the cluster bomber being dropped. And unfortunately, with the Russian cluster bombers, I find it's very 50-50 whether you kill the bloody tank or not due to their dispersion pattern. Even though it seems like it covers a rather tight area, there's quite a lot of gaps in these dispersions where those bomblets can miss, unfortunately. The right hand side is definitely stalemated quite a bit, but Angry Bird can just keep throwing bodies in. That's what you do with first pose, you just keep throwing bodies in. But he is winning by quite a bit. I mean, it's stacked down to 12-12, but Ampity is quite below in terms of points. Another cluster bomber on the Panther D. Once again, 50-50. Panther D does luckily survive for him. It's a shame because that was in a very exposed position, but never mind. I think it's a IS-3 gun there, again, a nice side shot on the Panther as it retreated. And Jesus Christ, that's a lot of fire support half tracks. He's going to run into 45 mils though, and 45 mils love dealing with light armor. One of the very important SU-85s do go down. Really can't be affording to lose him. But as you can see, with the 2-star veterancy, it can be a pretty deadly unit. But you are just outnumbered. You're just extremely outnumbered. And it's just going to take too much fire support. Too much fire in general, I should say, from fire support units. It's really going to do damage to his morale. IR-2 trying to go in to knock out the Panther, but doesn't manage to make it through the anti-aircraft line. We've got rubber wind here now. Rubber winds are definitely not fun to go up against. It has a wrong problem with having to rely so much on airplane cluster bombers to be your main anti-tank. It can be shut down pretty easily with anti-air. As you can see, just quad flak guns in general, set up in the right area, will just shut you down completely. You just can't do anything about it. And Ampity is actually starting to push back a bit. Angry Bird is still in the lead, but he has lost his right hand flag advantage. Once again, Angry Bird, he can just throw so many bodies in. It's really just these tanks that have proven to be a problem. Well, not so much. I mean, the SU-85 is actually doing pretty decent. There's a Tiger here now. like it's not going to be fun. He's trying to knock out all vital supply truck, and he does get the kill. Now it's like a 4 supply truck as well. That's a really good kill. Knocks out the T-30 Jagdpanzer as well. But he does lose the SU-85. Drankerbird has honestly been doing a pretty good job in keeping Amber T's tank forces down before they get to a critical mass. But he's not going to be able to do that forever, as he just does not have the ground base. On as we see, the air base AT is just not working. And Amber T is starting to get more artillery out, 105s and Hummels, and this is really the best way to counter the Poles, as all the Polar stuff is really just soft-skinned, or, you know, infantry and, I'd say T-34s. The T-34s, they kind of panicked pretty easily. True artillery, yeah, maybe not so much. But anyway, a lot of it's really just like infantry and anti-tank guns, the real scary, you know, mean things you have to fight against for the Poles. So knocking them out with long-range artillery is pretty good. Also, counter-battering the artillery is good as well. Especially considering that the Polar's counter-battery is pretty bad, as you don't have radios. It's not something that you can really do all that well, especially all the way across the map. You know, I've seen more cluster bombers in. Angry Birds really relying on them. But once again, anti-aircraft net is ridiculous. We even got flak 88s now. Amber T has caught on. And he is just shutting down any airplay. This is really going to be a huge hindrance to Angry Bird in terms of using his tanks. He does have a lot of T-34s on sea face at least, with those T-34 1943 models, so you can spam them for a decent amount. And as you can see, when you spam him in, you know, a rather good area, aka something that's pretty close quarters, they can prove to be pretty good. Considering only like 45 points, that's a real bargain. He decides to just surprise Amber T and get a good foothold into his town. And this is going to be getting more of these T-34s. As Panther, if he can come around the corner, he should have a pretty good shot at killing some of these, I believe. I mean, it also has a pretty good chance of being suppressed by him as well. You see this long-range Panther here. Very tight angle, but it's going to be picking off those T-34s one by one. And in that sort of engagement, T-34s can just not survive. And so they're going to have to move to greener pastures. To somewhere where they won't get blown up. We've got this horde of T-34s over here. Fortunately, it's only just IG-18s, so they can probably beat them out in a firefight. But Amber T has made huge head raise over here, and that's just really due to the fact he has tanks. Well, you know, powerful tanks, yeah. And this Tiger here is in a lovely spot to, you know, shoot these units as they come down the road. We do have Streltsky's with AT rifles. I don't think, yeah, even if they shoot like the back of that Tiger, I don't have a good chance of actually killing it. But fortunately, the Tiger is pretty exposed. So they do manage to get clusters on, and finally, a cluster does get a very important kill, as I don't think that PTRD would be enough to penetrate the thick rear of that Tiger. As you can see, this is the real problem with Pose, is, I mean, I keep pirating it, it's heavy tanks. It can be a real nuisance if you cannot deal with them. But fortunately, Amber T has started to push them into more exposed areas. I mean, at this range, you can get like AT guns and maybe get a side shot or two onto them. Once again, the airplanes are just getting shut down by the anti-air. But fortunately, unlike the Yak-9B cluster bomber, the IL-2 has a lot of armor, so even if it does get suppressed, it still has a good chance of getting out alive, so at least you don't lose a cluster bomber card. You just have to wait for it to get repaired. And Tiger is taking some hits from AT rifles, but it's just going to be pinging off its thick armor. T-34 sneaking around here. And actually managed to get some good hits on the Panther. I believe those were, I mean, don't hit. Was it the I think the T-34s are just getting enough. Yeah, just getting enough critical hits through overwhelming firepower, and these guys are going to be sneaking up around the barn. And yeah, this is This is where you gotta use your tanks here for the pose. Gotta be close and you gotta be close, is what I'm saying. But the second Panther comes in, overlooking the first Panther, and in long range, as you can see, he just picks off those T-34s one by one. The Angry Bird is slowly losing now. It's just very close to victory. He just has to, you know, capture 3 flags and hold them for just a few minutes. Really, his best bet's probably in the middle. But as you can see, Ambert's really, you know, exploiting his heavy tank advantage with Panzer. And he's just getting heavy tanks all over the place. And Angry Bird has kind of lost all his AT guns here. He probably really should take maybe like 1A, 1B, 1C phase card of 45mm instead of all an A phase. The extra availability definitely help out, but fortunately his Panther Ds have overextended. But once again, IL-2 Cluster Bombers. I like them, you need them, but they can be extremely finicky sometimes. It feels so 50-50. I think in this match it hasn't even been 50-50. The cluster bombers felt like they've been missing more than been hitting when they do get to drop their load. Yeah, Stoiger here is about to get flanked by his T-34s, and that should kill it. Here we go. Good maneuver, yeah. And it's just going to slowly stabilize the left-hand flank. And if Angry Bird can just capture his 1 flag back, bringing it back to a drove. Really, his best bet is just try to push through his center, I'd say. Hey, his Panthers are starting to not really face any AT. I mean, Angry Bird, there's no AT guns here. There's none. It's really just going to come down to his cluster bombers. Fortunately, once again, they're pretty overexposed, these Panthers, so the cluster bombers can do work. But it's 50-50 whether they actually do the work or not. But yeah, I mean, this is pose. I mean, even though Angry Bird is starting to run out of AT, he's not running out of infantry anytime soon. He's just bringing out all the strokey DPs. But there's nothing really for strokey DPs to shoot anymore, as most of Ambert's infantry is dead, and most of Armor's pretty thick-skinned. You are seeing like a few armored cars and half tracks being brought in, so the strokey DPs do have something to shoot at least. The cluster bombers are slowly picking off the Panthers. I mean, it's rather funny, you know, one side's completely out of infantry, the other side's completely out of AT. I think just through sheer manpower alone, Angry Bird is just going to take us. I mean, he's going to be pushing into the centre now, might be able to grab a flag or two. That's a lot of anti-air being brought out now. Angry Bird is not messing around. Probably may want to spread them out a little bit, but I mean, we're 53 minutes into the match. There we go, cluster bomb again, a very vital hit here. Going to be securing that flag and this flag over here as well. But Amberty, oh, he is so close to losing, but he's holding on by just a hair. Just a hair. I'm moving up that battery fuel to the vital flag over here. And both sides are really just starting to, you know, I say run out of stuff, but, you know, this is still companies of infantry being brought in. I mean, you've got a bunch of penal dudes now being put onto the field. But they're just going to get bombed here by the Focke-Wulfs. Yeah, I mean, Red seems to capture 1 more flag for just like 8 seconds. It's getting pretty tough. Albert's really holding his own. I've gotta give him respect. Fighting all the way to the very end like this. And yeah, that's gonna be a good game. Angry Bird does take the victory, even though, as we see, he did lose more stuff than he killed, but that's how you play Pose. That's how you play him. It's spam. You're looking at the chronology here. I mean, it does lose a lot of stuff early on Angry Bird, but yeah, it's pretty back and forth. I mean, Angry Bird definitely loses more stuff on the table, but his stuff is much cheaper compared to his Panthers and Tigers, etc., etc. We're looking at kills here. AL2 Bomber did some pretty decent work. 45mm AT gun. Like I said, 45mm AT guns, they can be pretty good. They can be really good in the right circumstances. S35's not doing anything too fancy here. I think that's a regular bomber IO2, I believe, not cluster bomber, because it's running a lot of infantry targets. Yeah, I see cluster bomber IO2. When they do work, it works pretty well. I mean, knocking out 3 heavy tanks like that definitely makes that cost efficient. Yeah, see towards like the end of the later units, you just barely kill anything. You're really just pushing stuff in to hope that they hold ground, and then yeah, the Germans probably got some, the Jagdpanzer, the Pioneers, and all of that. Like doing pretty well. Tiger's definitely a very good counter against Poles. As much better infantry fire support compared to the Panther. The Panthers, do pretty well as well. But I think I really hammered home the point of how to play this division. You just spam. It's pretty simple, straightforward. And I'm going to leave it off at, so this has been another Steel Division divisional overview. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and as usual, please just take it easy.